Welcome to the Girl Means Business podcast. I'm Kendra Swalls, a former teacher turned entrepreneur and mom of two. As women, we are so much more than just one thing. We're wives, moms, entrepreneurs, side hustlers, and dreamers with goals and ambition. On this podcast, we'll talk about everything from juggling family, work, and fun to making your dreams a reality through simple, effective marketing strategies, all designed specifically for the busy mom who doesn't have a lot of extra time. So whether you're just getting started or already have an established business, there's something here for you. If you're ready to take on the challenge of becoming your own boss and making your dreams a reality, then let's get started because this girl means business. Hey there, and welcome to episode 226 of the Girl Means Business podcast. This week is our first listener question episode. I'm so excited to start these, and I'm hoping to do at least one listener question episode per month. And the way that you get your questions in is I have an Ask Me Anything form on my website. I will link to it down in the show notes. You can go to that link and you can fill out the form and ask me any question that you are struggling with currently in your business. It can be about your brand, it can be about your ideal client, it could be about social media, or just any kind of struggle that you're currently having. And then I will answer those questions via email if your question is chosen as a topic for the podcast. And the way that I choose those are if they're questions I'm seeing multiple people asking in a variety of ways, or it's a topic that I feel a lot of people are probably asking or wondering the same thing or having the same issue, then I will turn that question into a listener question episode, much like the one you're going to hear today. And if your question is chosen, you receive a free Instagram audit from me. It's a $150 value. You get an audit for free, which includes me going through your entire Instagram account. I create a 10-page sort of audit of your content, your bio, your videos, your profile photo, your all the things, captions, hashtags, all the things. I also do a video walkthrough of your account to give you feedback. And so all of that is included in the audit. You can purchase those. I will link to that down in the show notes as well. Or you can submit a question to Ask Me Anything. And if your question is selected, you get that audit for free. All right, so this week's listener question is one that I have had come up multiple times. This is, not just in this question she submitted, but also I've had people ask me this in coaching calls or when I've done workshops or when I'm speaking at events. It's kind of a common question. And I've seen it on other people's platforms as well. So not just, asking me, but like asking other social media people or Instagram experts, things like that. So the question comes from Nikki Adams, and she is asking, is it more important to have a social media presence on as many platforms as possible, or to choose one or two platforms and then curate unique material for each? So in her question, she's also asking, should I be posting, if I have multiple platforms, should I be posting the same content across all platforms? So let's first address the question of, do I need to be on as many platforms as possible? And I feel like this is a really timely question, especially with the introduction of a new platform, Threads. If you're not familiar with Threads just yet, it is Meta's sort of version or answer to Twitter. So it is by Instagram. It links to your Instagram account, and it's essentially a text-based platform. So you go on, you create text. You can add photos and videos and GIFs and that kind of stuff, but primarily it's kind of for people just to throw their thoughts out there. And there was a lot of buzz around it because when they launched it, you had immediately millions of followers signed up. But I've had people ask me the question of, do I need to be on Threads? Is that someplace that it would be beneficial for me? So I felt like this question of, do I need to be on all the platforms is really timely. All right, so let's get to the answer. In short, my answer is no. You do not need to be on all the platforms. Now, I'm going to add an asterisk to that because I'm going to give you an exception to that rule in just a little bit. However, as small business owners, as creatives, we tend to be doing all the things on our own. In fact, I would bet that most of you listening are solopreneurs. It's just you. Or maybe you have a virtual assistant, or maybe you have a business partner, but for the most part, it's just you doing all the things. When it's just you doing all the things, you have to really look at, what do I have the energy and capacity and space for, and what is going to be the most beneficial for me and my business. So when it comes to social media, it can be a lot to try to do all the things. And if you are someone like me who kind of has FOMO in real life, I get FOMO in business as well. And so when I see people talking about like, oh, LinkedIn has this really great, reach, or LinkedIn does this, or, oh, you should be on Pinterest for this, or you should be doing YouTube videos because look how much you can make doing YouTube videos. It can be really distracting, and it's easy to kind of go, well, let me just dabble in all of it so that I'm not missing out on something that could be really beneficial. The flip side of that is maybe you're someone who is like the scarcity idea of, well, if I am not on that platform, I'm missing out on that audience. And I need to be in as many places as possible to have the greatest exposure possible. The problem with that is you're going wide, but you're not going deep. And so the idea of, well, let me be on every platform and I'll just repost the same content to all the platforms. Yes, that can seem like a good idea. However, you're not going deep enough to really scratch the surface. And with where we're at right now in social media, just posting content for the sake of posting content is not really enough anymore. It has to be more about creating a community, creating connections, creating a place where people feel like they really know you, and you're no longer just a business posting business content. So if you want to embrace that and you're like, yes, I want to have that. I want to have the platform. I want to have the following and the community and the connection and all the things that really turns into a successful business, then you need to be able to go deep. And that doesn't always mean going wide. So what I recommend is you look at, one, where does your audience spend their time? And I'm going to go kind of broad here. Obviously, you want your ideal target audience to be more specific than this, but for general terms, if you are targeting an audience of moms in their mid to late 30s, you probably want to be on Instagram. That's where they're spending most of their time. If your business is targeting teens or young, 20-year-olds, then you might need to be on TikTok, or you might need to be on YouTube. And that doesn't mean that your audience isn't in multiple places, but you want to figure out what is their go-to first social media app they're going to open at the beginning of the day. So for my audience, that's primarily Instagram. So then what I've done is I've really dove into Instagram, and I've been like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to make this Instagram account really well done. I'm going to really connect and build an audience and build a community and use it as lead gen for my business and do all the things. I'm going all in on Instagram. Now, here is where that little kind of asterisk I gave at the beginning comes in. Once you have established a consistent routine on one platform and you're looking around going, well, I also think my audience is on Pinterest. Maybe you are in a home fashion, home design space. And so you're like, yes, Instagram is where they go. They love the before and after reveals. They love the tips or the organizing or where I buy all my things. But I also think that they're going on Pinterest to get ideas and inspiration. Then you can say, I have this kind of Instagram thing figured out for as much as any of us can have it figured out. But I have a good system and a good routine. I feel like I have it under control and it's not requiring the amount of energy, time, brain space that it used to take. Then you can add on another option. So then you can say, okay, I've given all this time and energy to Instagram. I have it down really good. Now I'm going to dive into Pinterest and I'm going to figure out how I can utilize Pinterest to grow my business. Or maybe it's YouTube or TikTok or whatever it might be. But each platform requires you to have a pretty extensive knowledge of how that platform works and what is required in order to make that platform successful for your business, because they're not all as simple as just post it and walk away. Some of them are going to require that you, or not require, but they're going to need more from you in order for you to be successful on that platform. And if you're trying to learn what all the different platforms need from you, you're being pulled in too many different directions. So start with one, figure out what it is that one platform needs from you, and go all in on that. And then once you have that one figured out and you feel like you have a good routine in place, then move on and add on something else. And maybe you get 2 of those where you're like, okay, I've got this kind of running on autopilot. I know what I'm doing. Add in a 3rd if you want to. But again, it needs to be where your audience is. A perfect example is my photography business. I know the majority of my audience is on Instagram or Facebook. I have given all of my time and energy to growing those followings on Instagram and Facebook. I have had people tell me, you should be on LinkedIn. There's like a great space for photographers on LinkedIn. I don't believe that's where my audience hangs out. I don't think that, at least not for what they're looking for me for. I don't think that someone who is looking for a boudoir photographer is heading over to LinkedIn to look for a boudoir photographer. I think they're going to head to Facebook and ask them somebody in a group, in a mom's group or a women's group, or they're going to go to Instagram and do a search there. So it's about not just adding platforms for the sake of adding platforms. It's about adding the right platforms and investing the time it takes to actually make those platforms work for you. Now let's get to the second part of this question. So she also asked about the content. Can you post the same content across multiple platforms? So there are apps that will help you do this. So let's say, for example, you are utilizing Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, or Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. There are platforms like Loomly, and I think even later Tailwind, that will help you create one piece of content, reformat it for these different platforms. I think it's okay to share the same content topic on each platform. What I don't want you doing is saying, well, I primarily post to Instagram, so I'm going to format my content for Instagram, but then I'm going to have it also share that to Facebook, because Facebook needs different formatting and different content types than Instagram does. So if you're thinking, well, I'm going to be on 4 different platforms and I'm just going to take the same piece of content and just push it out to all 4 platforms and not change anything, that's not going to really help you. Think about it this way. If I go onto Instagram and I post a carousel with 5 different slides, and at the end of that carousel, I use a keyword automation. And I say, or maybe not even that. Let's just say at the end of that thing, at the end of the carousel, I say, head to the link in my bio to learn more. Because on Instagram, you can't have clickable links in your caption. So you have to direct them somewhere else. Well, if I just send that right over to Facebook, for one, there's now 5 images on my post from the 5 slides of my carousel. And there's a call to action to ask them to head to the link in my bio for more details. It doesn't make sense for the way that Facebook formats their content. So I'm okay with taking that same carousel, reposting it on Facebook in a different way. What I would do differently is I would take, whereas on Instagram, I might post those 5 slides as a carousel. On Facebook, I might just take the very first slide and post it as an image, and then use the caption, because Facebook does well with longer captions. I would make the rest of the slides the caption for the Facebook post. And then I would put a link directly into the Facebook post. I don't need to direct them to a link in my bio because that doesn't exist. The other thing is hashtags work differently on different platforms. Links work differently on different platforms. Format works differently on different platforms. You have to know that if somebody is coming to your Facebook post and they realize that it's coming from Instagram, they're like, oh, this was an afterthought. she's not actually posting this on Facebook. She posted it on Instagram and then just happened to push it over to Facebook. Sometimes you can even see where it says published from Instagram. That can be a turnoff because your audience feels like they're now an afterthought. They're like, oh, well, here I am on Facebook in her Facebook group or on her Facebook page, and I'm an afterthought because she's really building her audience on Instagram. She's just putting her content here. It's kind of just like I'll also throw it over there. As much as it may not be that big of a deal, it is something that people notice, and it is going to make them feel like they are not as important as your, quote, primary platform. So if you're going to post to multiple platforms, if you're in that position where you have said, I've got this one down, I'm going to add a second or possibly a third, you can post the same content, but it needs to be reformatted and posted natively to that site. So again, you can use apps like Loomly is one that I've used, and I use it for when I help out with some other clients with their scheduling and stuff. Loomly is great because it will let you upload a piece of content, and then it will give you the option to kind of click through and say, okay, on Facebook, let's kind of change how you want the Facebook one to look. Or here's the Instagram one, or here is the YouTube video, or the Pinterest pin, or the Twitter post, or whatever it might be. But you can then go and format each one. So you start with your core content, and then you just go make changes to each one. You can also schedule them to go out at different times, because that's the other thing. Each platform is going to have different best posting times. I know my Instagram audience is on in the mornings, so I'm posting in the morning, but my Facebook audience may not be on until the end of the day because they're a different type of audience. They're using the platform differently. So with like most questions, there was no easy, quick answer to this question, but in summary, I do not recommend trying to be on all the platforms just for the sake of being on all the platforms. There are some benefits to being on multiple platforms if you have audiences in different places. However, I do think it's best to start with one, learn and become really good at that one, and then add on the second. Otherwise, you're going to spread yourself thin. You're not going to be able to go really deep enough into the features of that platform to make it successful, and you're going to burn yourself out. And that's the last thing we want to do is burn ourselves out. So make sure you just keep it simple. Keep it simple. Know your ideal audience, know where they're spending their time, focus your energy and effort on that first, and then you can branch out from there. Don't forget that if you have a question you want me to answer, head to that Ask Me Anything link down in the show notes, submit your question, and you could even get your question answered on a future podcast episode. All right, ladies, that does it for this week. I hope you have a wonderful week. I will see you back here next week, same time, same place.